Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. It's been a while. So those of you who follow me will recognize this table. This was the maple river table that I had started a while back and it cracked on me. First time I ever had a table crack on me. So I'm picking up here after the client chose a solution for the fix. So this is part two, really. You guys can, who haven't seen it, can watch the first video. I'll put a link at the bottom for you in the comments. But anyway, the client chose the solution that was the quickest to remedy because she wanted it before Christmas, and at this point Christmas was about a week away. So she just chose to fill the crack and that was it, be done with it. So here I'm just using the track saw to square up the table and then also trim the excess epoxy off that creeped up between the edges and the forms. So my track saw cuts about 2 1/8, I think, and this table must have been 2 3/16 because when I cut it, it left like a 1/16 inch on it, and you just saw I was cleaning that up with a chisel. So after every pass with the track saw, I just have to go back and clean that little sliver up with a chisel. It comes off pretty easy. So you can see all the dust is making, so I chose to do this outside because in the garage with the track saw on and the dust collector, sometimes it pops the breaker, so I just chose to do this outside. It was warm enough on this day. I think it was probably about 40 degrees out, so not so bad. And that's the last edge there, and I'm just gonna pop that off and clean up the edge with the chisel again. Okay, so moving on to router planing. This table was 53 or 55 inches wide, so I needed to do this in 2 passes for each side. I couldn't reach all the way across. So yeah, I'm just going halfway, all the way down one side, and then I flip the form over, or flip the sled over, and then I route the other side out. And I had to do both the top and the bottom because the epoxy creeps under the bottom, and it also wasn't exactly level on the top, so I had to plane that back to level. And again, another operation that makes a huge mess. I really need to invest in routers that have dust collection on them. And of course, the next order of operation after planing is sanding. So normal sanding progression here, 80, 120, and 150 I did. And then sometimes, I don't know if I did it on this table or not, sometimes I do just the river with 220 just because I feel it gives a better sheen when I put the finish on. And back into the shop now. So I sanded the one side, flipping it over. Actually, I sanded the one side and it looks like I did some more fills there because I can see the shiny spots. And then I'm just gonna flip it over so I can do the other side, throwing a little bit of a mat down just so I don't introduce any more scratches into the already sanded side. Even though I'm gonna have to do a little bit more spot sanding on the fills I did. Just good practice to put something under it. Okay, now that we're flipped over to the other side, it's back to some sanding. We'll only show a few seconds of this, but again, I forget which side this is now. I don't know if it's the top or the bottom, but it's still the same sanding progression, 80, 120, 150. So a couple more seconds here, and then we'll move on to the next thing. Wow, you can really see that crack now. So what's happening here is I sanded the surface, but where I filled the crack, it's not quite to the surface. So when I sanded it, the epoxy got scuffed up from the sander and there's sanding dust on there, and the crack didn't get touched by the sander, so it's still shiny and really pronounced. Now that I'm cleaning it all off, it's blending in a little bit better. And the reason why I'm cleaning it off with a little alcohol here is I'm going to put another layer into that crack just to bring it to the surface, because there's no way I can sand that table all the way down to where the crack is. So anyway, yeah, just wiping it off, and next step is epoxy fill. Okay, as promised, I'm filling that crack in a little more with some epoxy just to bring it up to surface. And for this coat, I'm just using clear. I'm not mixing any color into it. You will not be able to tell. It's just going to be invisible that it's clear on top. And it looks like I'm filling a couple other little spots. There were probably some micro pitting and whatnot. So yeah, I'm just filling those. And now I'm just going to grab the torch and torch it off, pop any bubbles, and that will be it for that fill. So the next order of operation will be finishing. And I think for this table, I didn't use Rubio, I used Osmo Poly X. And this is 3043, they're clear satin. And basically it goes on the same as Rubio. You trowel it on, you work it in with a white pad, and the only difference is you work it in with the white pad until the wood has absorbed all of the oil. You don't wipe it off with a rag like you do with the Rubio. You just work it all in until there's no more product left on the table. So if your white pad there starts to get saturated and there's still a lot of product on the table, you just swap your white pad out for a fresh white pad so that it absorbs some of that finish. Because you're not using a rag, like I said, you're just working it in with that white pad until the product is all absorbed, or absorbed into the table or absorbed into your white pad there. And now it's just a few shots just to see what she looks like. So from some angles you can't see the crack, and then from other angles it's really noticeable. And now, so that was the bottom I finished there. Now on the top I sanded it probably to 120, and then I'm just going around with a little chamfer bit on the trim router to ease the edge over. It's probably a 1/4 inch. It's probably like an 1/8 to 3/16 inch chamfer I'm putting on there. And now I'm putting the finish on the top of the table. So again, just troweling it on, and then I'll work it in with the white pad. With the chamfer that I put on, I usually do that around 120. I usually sand to 120, and then I hit it with the router to put the edge on, and then I sand at 150 just to get any marks the router left behind. And then I like to use the syringes just to pull the Osmo out of the can and shoot it on the table. That's the other good thing about the Osmo. You don't have to, it's not two parts. You don't have to mix it. So you just pull it straight out of the can. You stir it in the can, you pull it out with a syringe, and then I just syringe it onto the table and work it in with the white pad. And yeah, that's pretty much all there is to it. You can really see that spalted maple start to pop along with the river there. So just working it in with the trowel, and then right back to the white pad after that. So for this table, the client actually had custom steel legs built for it. So she dropped them off at my house so that I could lay out where the connection points were going to be. So I just held the legs on top of the table upside down. I marked out all my holes, and then I'm just drilling for some inserts now, just regular 1/4 20 furniture inserts. So I'll stick those in, and it's 4 per leg. And what I had to do is on the legs itself, I had to just widen the holes. They weren't oblong holes. So with 4 bolts on each top of the leg there, it really wouldn't allow for any movement. So I had to just grind those holes a little oblong. And then when I put my furniture bolts in there, I just snug them. I don't make them too tight, just so it can move if it needs to move, so it doesn't stress the wood at all. And this was the last step here before delivery. So I get the legs on, and then the client actually texted me some photos of it in her house, and I'll add those to the end of the video here. But that was the whole build. So it was unfortunate that it cracked, but she seemed happy with it. So if she's happy, I'm happy. In the future, though, if I have that happen again, I think what I would do is just route about 3/4 of the river out and then re-pour on top of it. All right. Thanks for watching, everyone. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you on the next one.